This is an extract from the Leader podcast by the Evening Standard, hosted by me, David Marsland. To hear the whole thing, search for us on your podcast provider. Health Secretary Matt Hancock's under fire after admitting he doesn't know how many of his own staff are working in the office. The Cabinet Minister suggested it doesn't matter if civil servants work from home and stay away from central London. He was speaking to Asma Mia on Times Radio's Breakfast Show.
What is the percentage in your department? Do you know, and what would you like it to be?
I have absolutely no idea. What I care about is how effectively people work. And obviously people should come back to the office if that is what they need to do their job.
But our editorial column says there's more at stake than that.
Matt Hancock's admission is hardly sending the right message about the need for workers to return. Indeed, it seems that much of Whitehall is largely failing to heed the Prime Minister's plea to the nation's workers to go back to their workplaces. Reports today suggest, for example, that only a tenth of the officials at some of the most senior government departments are at their desks, and the picture seems to be little different at others. That's hardly showing a lead at a time when getting people back in their offices and reviving city centres is so vital.
Our political editor Joe Murphy's here. Joe, what's been the reaction at Westminster to Matt Hancock's comments?
In fact, David, there's been something of a deafening silence from number 10, where the Prime Minister obviously has been urging people to get back to work. But he's not commenting on what Matt Hancock said. The biggest reaction is coming from Tory MPs who are concerned that city centres all across the country, but especially the big London powerhouse, are like ghost towns. So we've had the former Cabinet Minister, Theresa Villiers, telling us that really the government ought to be leading by example and getting its own staff back to their desks. And Sir Charles Walker, who is the vice chair of the infamous Men in Grey Suits, the 1922 committee, he says he wants ministers to get a grip on Whitehall and make the point that getting people back to their desks is vital, because that is what will get the economy moving again and spread the wealth that people can earn around to more people and in turn generate more wealth.
It does feel a bit like the government once again muddling its messaging during the coronavirus pandemic, because if you've got the Health Secretary saying he doesn't care how many people are in the office so long as they get the job done, what message is that sending to bosses who are trying to get people to go into the office?
Exactly, as one MP said to me, this is confusing the message, and it shone a spotlight on the rather awkward and embarrassing sort of secret that in Whitehall only about 1 in 7 desks contain the usual occupant, because civil servants are working from home. And you might say, well, why shouldn't they? Well, it's just awkward for ministers to preach to everybody else, get into London, support the economy, while saying to their own staff, it doesn't matter where you work.
Now, Joe, of course, the reason Mr. Hancock was doing the media rounds today is because he's been talking about this new payment that's going to be given to people on low incomes who need to self-isolate and can't work from home in areas with a high incidence of COVID-19. But there are claims that that's too low. It's just £13 a day extra, isn't it?
Yes, it hasn't gone down awfully well. Labour council leaders in the areas where it's going to be trialled are saying it's a slap in the face for people. Matt Hancock did point out that this is not the income that they are to live on, this £13 a day, but it's extra on top of their usual support from the benefit system to try and make it easier for people to stay at home and not go to work spreading the disease. And he also gave a slight hint that this is a trial period, and if it has to be adjusted, it could be.